Hello everybody and welcome back to a technical analysis video for One Piece Burning Blood. My name is Silvokiji and this is the Zone Gaming Go. We're going to be talking about picking a map today for One Piece. Now One Piece Burning Blood picking a map is a very important video. I've actually been working on this video for literally 2 minutes. I'm just playing, not 2 minutes, like 2 hours. I've just been constructing everything, looking over the maps and stuff, and there were some things that I actually completely forgot about and some things that I just had to refresh my mind upon. So it took a while to kind of get everything written down. So each slide is going to introduce the stage. There are 12 stages in the game, and tell you the different attributes of the stage. And so when you pick up a game plan, you can figure out what stage you want to play on, as well as learn the strengths and weaknesses of each stage. So when you actually are placed on that stage, you kind of know where you're getting at between you and your opponent. When it comes to high level Burning Blood, especially in the tournaments, you got to know what stage does what. I mean, it's not just like, oh, I don't care. That's not the attitude you need to actually have when you're actually entering the game. You need to have a game plan on what you're going to go with, as well as look at your opponent's stage and kind of figure out what they may or may not be trying to go with. The first slide is questions. Well, technically, the second slide is questions. These are the questions I will be answering. The third question is already answered. Does the stage matter? Should I think before selecting? And is there a best stage? The third question is, what are the attributes that make a stage? Just the starting position, obstacles, and size. Now, the other three will be answered as the video progresses, and I'll explain if the stage does matter. So I will explain why it matters. Should I think before selecting? Yes, you should, and I will explain why you should think. Is there a best stage? That's a stupid question. Don't even know why I have it on there. There is no such thing as having a best stage, because here's the truth. No matter what stage you pick, you may be screwed one way or another, and that's just because how the game is. Some characters are better in bigger stages, some characters are better in smaller stages, some characters are better with obstacles, some are not. Rushdown, zoning, all that stuff contributes to picking a stage. So there's no way to actually determine if there is a best stage for you to select for your team. Recommended, yes, but is that the best choice? Who knows? The first stage we're going to showing up is Marineford Frozen Sea. Marineford is a size large, starting line is close, hard obstacles no, soft obstacles yes, special terrain no. Now what these actually mean, because I forgot to explain this, is that hard obstacles are any obstacle that has to be destroyed with a special attack, or anything that's like ultimate like or something like that. Other than that, they work as kind of like temporary walls until they're broken down. Soft obstacles are not really obstacles, they're just things that kind of clutter up the screen. You can just walk through them to destroy them. Now the size is, this is where it gets confusing. So some of the stages have different shapes, and I was not going to do shapes for the stages. So some stages may be oval, some are circles, some are kind of like hexagon-y, whatever. And I didn't really I contribute those shapes into the size. So if a stage might be large and another stage might be medium, you're like, wait, but that stage is the same as the when I actually looked at it. Well, it's because the size of it or the shape of it kind of contributes to that, and that's why I put it as such. Now, special terrain is like if the terrain itself is messed up or kind of jagged or slopey or something. We'll talk about that in the next couple of stages. So Frozen City, the thing about Frozen City is that there's basically nothing on this map. It's a large map. It's the only large map with nothing on it. The only obstacle is the soft obstacles, which is the little slope you see, or little ice slope you see in front of Luffy in the second picture. That's closest to the actual text. Now, basically what this does is that it doesn't give you any term of terrain advantage at all whatsoever. If you're a zoner, you have free reign basically. You don't have to worry about people hiding behind obstacles to set up stuff. Characters like Bartholomew and Sengoku can't do artillery order or do this taunt without actually activating barrier first. So there's a lot of non-available. Well, actually, I can say this. There's no real good switch-ins. Most players will use obstacles to do switch-ins or perhaps bring in a character to actually save another character's life. And what I mean by that, it's like characters like Akinyu. Let's look at Akinyu for example. Akinyu will usually go behind an obstacle to set up his special movement. Some players do anyway, and that can kind of like distract an opponent. Basically, oh, where is he going to do? What is he? What button is he pressing? And when they come up behind you, then you're like, oh, you did that. Now, of course, yeah, the camera does change, but you also got to think about visuals. If you don't see it, you're just going to keep guessing in your mind, and you might get caught off guard. This stage doesn't have any of that. It's completely plain. You can completely see your enemy. As you can see from the second picture, Doflamingo is super far away. By the way, I use Doflamingo and Luffy for everything, so you're going to be seeing them a lot. And the start position is also very important. They start off close, so in close combat, they have an opportunity to kind of do a lot of damage, but once they get out of that close combat, you're playing a long game at this point. Next stage, Marineford Oris Plaza. Now, this stage differs from the Frozen City in numerous ways. For one, it's smaller. Not necessarily being super small, but it has like a slight, like, I guess it's this shape that actually makes it a little bit small. They start off close, similar to Frozen City, no hard obstacles, but they have two large rocks and a giant sword as a soft obstacle. Now, despite being soft obstacles, they are very, somewhat large. As you can see from is it the down picture below? You see the rock that's actually on Luffy's left, and the on Doflamingo, not Luffy's left, but Luffy's left, and is really behind Doflamingo. Also, pay attention to the positionings as well, because I'm not actually talking about Frozen City. Now, the positions here is that the second player always starts with two rocks behind him, and Luffy here in the second picture, or the third picture, I mean, actually has the giant sword behind him. Now, in the fourth picture with the giant sword, that's just me like walking up to it. And the first picture was the rocks. That's also just me walking up to it for a closer look. But I want you to pay attention more to the second and the third picture of the positions of the actual characters, because that actually does matter. Because when you're playing, I'm not really sure if it changes your positions when you're playing and puts you in different positions. I'm not 100% sure. I can't really prove that myself at this moment unless I actually look at other videos and possibly kind of get the idea. But I can tell you right now, the second player will always be at that position. The first player will always be at that position. Now, another thing about this map is special terrain is ores. So ores in the background, in the third picture, is basically kind of like a temporary wall. Now, if you walk up to him, he removes his hand, and he actually relinquishes part of the map. So he's actually covering part of the map, and this is actually the part that makes the map kind of like get a little bit wider. I mean, it's not really big, but it just kind of, helps a lot. So you also got to consider if you actually knock someone to ores and you're trying to do a combo or something like that, you may end up dropping it because it's, like I said, it's a wall that's just moving. So a wall combo might not work because the wall just kind of like gets out the way. So that's something you got to watch out for. It's the only special terrain or only hazard in the map or in the game that actually works that way. So Ores Plaza is unique in that special way. Giant Sword is a good place to kind of hide behind. As you can see, Doflamingo is actually directly in front of Luffy, but you cannot see them because of the special terrain. Same thing with the rocks on the first picture. Okay, next up is Marineford Battlefield. Ooh, I should have picked a different character because this is going to be really annoying. Okay, so it's a large stage. The starting line is medium. Hard obstacles are 2 military cannons. Soft obstacles, none. Special terrain, none. So the map is actually shaped in an oval, as I put down in the text in the right side. And as an oval, of course, is closer towards the ends, or to the left and right side, than it is to the front and back side, if that makes any sense. Now, the characters do start in a medium position. I believe the cannons are actually behind the first position. So the cannons themselves, like I said, are obstacles, so they're indestructible unless by special attacks. So most of the time, you're going to find yourself kind of getting behind the cannons. If you're playing as a rushdown character, your first aspect probably would be to get rid of them. But if you're like a tricky type character and you're trying to set up, or like a Blackbeard or something like that, then get behind them right away to set it up. Because once they're gone, you're not going to get any opportunity really to actually do any damage. Despite being a large map, the stage itself is kind of condensed. So the only way to actually get the largeness is from the second picture is to actually be at that distance there. Because the map itself, like I said, despite being large, is actually pretty shrunken or something like that. Okay, next up is Dressrosa, Corrida, whatever, Colosseum. DCC. So this is a medium stage. It's a complete circle. Starting line is close. No hard obstacles, no soft obstacles, no special terrain. This map is completely barren. It's a medium map with nothing on it. Now, the reason this map is actually considered a go-to for a lot of people is because you're in close quarters. It is a medium map, so you're kind of close up to each other. You don't have to worry about hard obstacles, so no one's setting up. This is probably going to be a nightmare for people like Bartho or Blackbeard or anybody like freaking what's his name, Sengoku. Sengoku will never do artillery fire in this map, never, unless he gets a knockdown. And it's very punishable because the place being a circle, you can't really do a lot of wall combos type things here because it's just a complete circle. Things are going to kind of slide to the right or kind of slide to the left. So that's one thing to consider on this map. Now, with characters that are specialized in rushdown, this map is godlike for them. They have a good time here. Zoning characters will pretty much like maybe be okay because the map, like I said, is not small, so they can still kind of slightly get away. But being a circle, you're not really going to be able to avoid a lot. And especially with a giant character can get you really quickly on some maps like this because of them being such a huge character. There's no way you can really run unless you have a character that's dash. And you have to actually not dash to corners because, like I said, you're going to eventually meet up with them in the center. Next up is Dressrosa. Oh my goodness, these names. Akasha? Whatever. Okay, so this map is one of the largest in the game. It's a starting line far. It's the only map in the game that backs you this far. Yeah, there are two hard obstacles, two gingerbread houses from you see in the third picture below, and there's a soft obstacle. There's multiple soft obstacles in the stage. One of the main ones I want to talk about is the Doflamingo statue because that's the one you can actually hide from. Now, if your character is small enough, you can pretty much kind of hide behind it, or and kind of do something from it. The gingerbread houses are pretty huge. As you can see from the first picture, the gingerbread houses are actually majority in the second slot or second area where the person is located. So the first person won't have to worry about that, or the first slot don't have to worry about that as much. So if you're in the second slide, like for a Doflamingo in case, you can easily zone people to death. Now this is one of the main zoning maps in the game. The one flaw of this map is that it's just huge. So you can outlast Burning Gauge, you can just waste time from support. It's very difficult to catch zoners on this map, especially if they get special moves like Doflamingo, as we already seen. And rushdown characters have a very hard time on this map because, like I said, it's just huge. Now, games like Storm 4 have like a special barrier which prevents you from going too far away from your opponent. One Piece Burning Blood does not have that. So this map itself is just a huge advantage to zoner type characters. So there's no surprise that you actually fight one. Now, people like Gecko Mariah probably won't show their faces on this map because he likes doing wall combos and stuff, so he likes to get to people. But like I said, Doflamingo and Nell, Crocodile possibly will have a good time here simply because they can just keep their opponent at bay. Next up is Thousand Sunny, one of the smallest maps in the game. This is basically kind of like a hex type shape stage here. And the reason this place is kind of unique is because it has special areas around the stage that makes wall combos really easy. It's one of the easiest places to do wall combos on next to Shandora Ruins. The starting line here is close, so you start out really close to your opponent. No hard obstacles. There are soft obstacles everywhere between the orange trees and the barrels and the chair, and there is no special terrain besides what I mentioned with that special little gimmick. In the second picture, that's kind of one of the areas I showed you where you can actually do easy wall combos. People like Jinbei have this really powerful infinite, not really infinite combo thing he can do, but really powerful chain with his Shark Brick Fist, and it only is really working pretty well. That's a bad sentence. In places like Thousand Sunny and Shandora Ruins. I believe in some cases it can work in the Drum Castle very easily because I also believe they also have a weird shape on there as well because Enel can do his infinite on those three maps in particular because it's very easy to actually combo people in it. Now about this map even further is that the map itself is very ideal for rushdown based characters and also something else you want to think about. I say ideal for rushdown based characters, but you also got to look at your opponent as well. If your opponent has a character that has a really fast move at the very beginning of the fight, if you're trying to go for something else that like you possibly did in the other maps in a large map or something where you had a mid or you had a far starting line, you will get hit. You got to think about that distance too. You might be thinking I'm a rushdown character, so yeah, I'll go with Thousand Sunny, but you also have to think about what's going to happen at the beginning of that match because there's a lot of things that can happen at the beginning of the match. One hits, setting up. All of that stuff is very momentum based, and you really don't want to be caught in something like that. So, yeah, you can choose this map, but you have to think about what your opponent might end up doing on this map as well. The same thing with every other map. It's like your opponent can do the same thing as you as you're trying to do to them. Sea Forest. Now, the Sea Forest, of course, is a Fishman Island stage. This stage is very weird, and I'll talk about it in a minute. So, it's the medium stage. The starting line is pretty close. No hard obstacles. The soft obstacles are three rock formations, like you can see from the third picture. The second picture is they're actually behind the second slot, and the first picture is just me actually walking up to one of them. I believe that big rock in the first picture is actually behind the first slot in picture number 2. Now the thing about the C4 is that it's a very slopey map, as the map or the stage itself is not even. And so when you're walking, you're kind of going up and down, up and down. And because like height is a very important thing in One Piece Burning Blood, there are certain combos that would actually drop just because the map itself will not allow it. So it's really advantageous to go to this map if your team itself is not very combo reliant in terms with themselves. But if a person like, let's say Shanks or like Whitebeard or something like that, they have to actually kind of time their stuff a little bit differently. I'm not saying it's a complete different, but they have to time their stuff a little bit differently, or probably combos they would have worked before is like because of that uneven aspect, and like, oh, you actually drop sooner because you hit the ground faster on this part of the map than you did this part of the map, and that's a lot of stuff you have to think about. Now, those soft obstacles, really won't be a problem for characters that are zoning because they'll just destroy them. But they'll help you when you're actually behind doing attack stuff like that, and people won't realize what you're doing until, of course, they see subtitles on the screen. Next up is Drum Castle Gates. Now, Drum Castle Gates is a very interesting place as it really doesn't have that much. It's a medium sized, close starting line, no hard obstacles. Yes, they have soft obstacles, and their special terrain is hill. So the whole map is actually on a hill. So if you go to a certain point on the map, you're actually walking up instead of walking down. And it's just kind of like half of it is on a hill, but you don't actually start. You start on top of the hill at the starting point, and then when you walk backwards, like at the first slot or second slot, walk backwards, they'll be going down the hill. Now, the game, or not game, but the stage itself has a ton of trees. The trees itself can kind of cover a character, as you see from the second picture, but they really don't make a big difference because just going, mowing them down. But it's also pretty good to do. A lot of times people can't see because of like smoke and stuff from other character stages, so I'm guessing the trees itself kind of give that same factor. Now, honestly, this stage is a double-edged sword because of the hill it actually has. But it's a pretty fun place to go to, and because it does start up close to that medium, it kind of has the same Colosseum effect, besides the trees being practically everywhere. So if you don't really want to be bothered by all the smoke or the debris and just all this stuff, then yeah, Colosseum. But if you want to mess up your opponent, kind of trick them up and try to go for some stuff, then Drum Castle Gates will be the place you want to go to. Now, I'm not saying that you can definitely do it because, like I said, everything varies. Nothing's definite. Next map here is the Shandora Ruins, Skypiea. So this size is medium. It's kind of like a skinny oval shape, so it's actually big, but because it's so like slim or like skinny, I have to say it's medium. The starting line is mid. Hard obstacles is 3 walls. Soft obstacles is no. Special terrain is no. Technically speaking, it does kind of have a special terrain, but I don't think it really matters because when you destroy the ruins themselves, they actually kind of like keep the bottom part, which is kind of like a little slope. I don't really think that really matters as much. Maybe. But I guess I haven't tested it out, to be honest. So you see the 3 ruins over there. I think they're like kind of like in the area, like you're surrounded by them basically when you start the game off, and they're pretty good places to kind of go and hide and do other stuff like set up, like I mentioned before, and other things. Now medium mid, so you start off at a very good position here, and the medium size of the map is also really well depending because this is an oval shape. It can be really good for rushdown characters, kind of keep you as sort of like at the skinny part of the oval. And the zoner themselves can go to the complete other side and just start a zoning game. So it's like one of those places that doesn't definitely allow you to rush down, but also doesn't definitely allow you to zone a person to death. And because those 3 walls are there in a centralized map, basically this is going to happen at the beginning. At the beginning of the entire fight at Shandora Ruins, you're going to be aiming to fight around those 3 walls. That's going to happen. They're going to get destroyed in the first minute. That's usually how it happens whenever you go to Shandora Ruins. Whenever I play as Rohawk or Jester, that is the first thing that happens at this place. Oh, I'm not pronouncing this. Alabasta. This is a large map. Starting line is close. Hard obstacles is 2 buildings, as you can see from the picture number, 1, 2, and 3. Yes, soft obstacles, no special terrain. So the thing about this starting line is that you start off close here. And on the left side of the first slot, you have the 2 buildings. And on the right side of the first slot, you have all the soft obstacles. And they only kind of like stick to that really small area. And when you back up far enough, you won't really see any of that. So I can see from picture number 1, this is Luffy kind of, or the person in the first lot going a little bit back. And you can kind of see how far apart those 2 buildings are from each other. And then you can see on the second picture how big the building actually is. Huge building. Sometimes when I was playing Sengoku against Rohawk, when he had Garp, I would actually hide behind the building and activate artillery order just so I can have a free artillery order and start keeping up the pressure as soon as he's destroyed the building. Now, in most cases, people would try to destroy these buildings as fast as possible because they have such a big threat. Reason for that is because they're on the left. Well, they're on the left side of the first slot. So most of the time when you're fighting up close, you're going to be fighting all over the place. So eventually, not eventually, but at some point, you're going to realize those houses are a problem. You got to think about hard obstacles not being destroyed by special attacks. And when you're fighting like in this sort of direction, like you can see in the third picture, those buildings are probably not going to get destroyed at the very beginning. Now the ruins from Shandora, yeah, because they're centered around, you can't help but notice them. But the houses on Alabasta, you often forget just because they're on one in particular side of the map. Next stage here is the island. The island is another small map. Starting line is close, hard obstacles, 1 shed, soft obstacles, yes, and special terrain is no. Now the shed is pretty funny. The thing about the shed is that it's literally like, I can't say character link. I say 3 Whitebeards maybe. I say 3 Whitebeards away from the first slot at the very beginning. So you turn around, you get a shed. Now, what sucks about this, if you're getting comboed by a character, by the person in the second slot on the island, you can get combo. You can get by wall combos since technically there's a wall behind you. And most of the time when people are playing, they completely forget that the shed is literally right behind them. The shed is in the center of the map, and so it's something that should never be gone unnoticed. But it's usually destroyed at the very beginning when people do combos on other people. So one of the things I want to say to people who do start in the first slot, because I believe you do switch every now and again, is to sidestep. Sidestep out there or not get hit, because there's a lot of combos that actually hit that weren't supposed to hit because that shed was literally right behind the first slot. So that's not an advantageous position to be in. Now, going to the island does help because it is a small and close map, so it's kind of like the Thousand Sunny. It's just unlike the Thousand Sunny, you won't be able to get hit by that Jinbei and a nail bullcrap that exists in the game. Not to mention, one of the other things about the island is that the shed is there. So that's kind of what really sets the Sunny and the island apart from each other. It's the fact that the island actually has a hard obstacle and the Thousand Sunny does not. Now, the last map here is Port Town. This is a medium-sized map, close starting line, hard obstacles, 2 pillars, I apologize. Soft obstacles are right behind the first slot, and special terrain. Now, when I say right behind the first slot, they're actually literally all mostly behind the first, sorry. They're mostly behind the first slot. And actually, wait a minute. Are the pillars... I actually think the pillars are soft obstacles, to be honest. I don't know why I listed them as hard obstacles. Actually, you know what? I know this is kind of like super unprofessional of me. But I'm going to check really quickly, but also kind of talk about this map while I'm at it. Okay, so the thing about Port Town is that it being a medium and a close range starting line is really ideal, especially the fact since you have all these obstacles around you. You're thinking here that, like, oh, no, that's the wrong sentence. I said you're probably thinking at this point, like, why would I not go to Town Sunny, or why would I just go to like somewhere like the island instead of going to Port Town? Well, Port Town has that kind of mystery behind it, because you're dealing with the pillars that are behind the character, and you're also dealing with the shape. Now, the shape is medium, but the map itself is actually kind of like messed up. Now, where you see those 2 pillars that basically sets up the circle. So from those 2 pillars, create the circle, and that's the size of the map, which is actually not medium technically. The only reason I consider the map medium is simply because of the outer part, of the left and right part, where you actually start from the first slot. And basically what that gives you, oh my goodness, with the wrong map. And basically what that gives you is is a heavy rushdown strategy. As a zoning type character, you can't really do much because of the ruins in the part. So the opponent, can actually guess where you're going to do while you're a zoner, and kind of outsmart you. That made no sense, but kind of just go with it. Okay, so just right now, I'm about to recheck to make sure that those pillars themselves are actually soft obstacles, and so I will not be lying to you guys at the moment. And another thing about Port Town that I want to also mention is that Port Town is kind of newish. They did make an excuse saying it was something about the Grand Line or whatever, but you know, I think the map was completely just made up, and I honestly never seen it. Okay, so we're about to see here if it is a soft obstacle. Sorry I had to do this, but I don't want to lie to you guys, and I gotta make sure this video is pretty much accurate. Okay, no, it is a hard obstacle. I knew something told me it was gonna be a hard obstacle, but I had to check. I really did, because I wasn't really sure. But yeah, there are 2 pillars. So that's basically it. So guys, thanks for watching the video. Sorry about that little thing in the end, but yeah, that's how stage selection and everything. So actually, let's go back real quick. Let's go back to questions here. So does the stage matter? Yes, the stage does matter. Should I think before selecting? Yes, you should think before selecting. And is there a best stage? So we already answered is the best stage in a sort of way. So let's just answer, does the stage matter? Stage does matter because it is based on the team you selected and the strategy you are going with. You don't want to just pick a random stage and get screwed in the end. You don't want to just pick a stage when you have a rushdown team and get destroyed by zoning because you just thought, oh, I'm just going to go to the Dressrosa because it's my favorite map. You can go to your favorite maps with casual. It's perfectly okay. When you're playing against a person and you're trying to beat them, you're going to have to think about the map where you're actually fighting against them, especially when you're doing first to tens and stuff like that. And yes, you should think before selecting because, like I said, you might counterpick yourself, and you don't want to counterpick yourself. That is very bad. So other than that, guys, thanks for watching the video from the maps or whatever I said the title was. What was the title again? picking a map. I don't know what's wrong with me today, but thank you for watching the video about picking a map. I hope this was very educational to you, as well as educational for me too, because I had to do all this, so I had to look at all the maps, look at the starting lines, everything like that, and kind of get the idea of like, what can I actually tell you guys about this that you might not already know. Other than that, enjoy Play One Piece Burning Blood. If you want to participate in any of the first 10 events, or perhaps challenge accepted, or doubles, or whatever like that, in the tournament that's occurring August the 1st, 2020, you can always just message me on the YouTube channel, or you just message me on PSN, and I will get back to you as soon as possible.